Hi folks. In recent days, it's been brought to my attention what Russell Brand's been up to. I particularly watched an episode of his Chews, CHEWS, last night, number 205, where he recounts a story of how just in the last few days, the most allegedly popular newspaper in England, The Sun, in Britain, has run a campaign against him. And he's responded in kind by pointing out the nature of all the top people in that newspaper's education, their political agendas, etc. So check it out, it's quite interesting. But I thought, wait a minute, Russell Brand, wildcat, madcat, wildfire, all over the place, ex-addict, crazy man, versus Rupert Murdoch, king of the corporate world. Surely one-sided. So let's have a look. Russell Brand, 4th of June 1975, 23:59, Grays in Essex. Born with the pretty strong opposition of the Sun to Neptune. Sun in Gemini, opposite Neptune in Sagittarius. Neptune in the 10th house. This straight away you can see the signs of potential for addiction and escapism and avoidance, as well as imagination, creativity, artistry, art, music, photography, film, choreography. Any Sun-Neptune contact brings this type of influence in. But the real powerhouse in Russell Brand's chart is the conjunction of Mars at 11 degrees of Aries, the Moon at 16 Aries, and Jupiter at 17 Aries. Moon, Mars, Jupiter all conjunct opposite Pluto. Mars opposite Pluto. There's the anger, there's the passion, there's the desire to stick it to the man with Mars opposite Pluto. It's a kind of unconscious desire to rebel against the normality, the autocracy and the authority of the world, come what may. And with the Moon conjunct Jupiter really strongly in Aries, he's certainly got the passion, the vitality, he's got everything when it comes to actually projecting himself and taking the initiative. In his personal life, the exact opposition of Venus to the ascendant, both of them T-square Uranus retrograde in the 9th house, suggests that his long-term relationship patterning has yet to be settled, and his personal life still a bit of a mess. But he's at the moment, with Uranus coming up to his Moon and Jupiter over the coming year, and squaring his Saturn as well, there's going to be consistent fireworks from this guy. He is a bit of a loose cannon, and you're never quite sure what he's going to come up with next. And with Uranus hitting his Moon and Jupiter next year, this is going to continue. Can't see him lasting too long before he burns out or moderates, but for next year is going to be spectacular. Now, Rupert Murdoch, editor, owner of The Sun and large numbers of other newspapers around the world, the 11th of March 1931, also 23:59, Melbourne, Australia, making him Pisces with Sag Moon and Capricorn rising. A lot of Capricorn energy, Saturn in the 1st house opposite Pluto. Uranus square Pluto in his chart. He's 84 years old. It is his Uranus return. We will be 84 years old shortly. Uranus conjunct the node in the 4th house of Aries, squaring his Pluto, about to be hit by Uranus, so I would expect him to finally step back, probably through retirement over the coming year, because it's just getting a bit much for him. It's a hard chart. Anyone born in the early 30s has got the Uranus-Pluto square, same as there is now. It's just that in them days, Uranus was still in Aries, because it's gone 84 years, but Pluto was in Cancer, not Capricorn, where it currently is. I've had a look at the synastry between Brand and Murdoch. You can be absolutely sure that these two people will never, ever sit down around a dinner table together and have what we call pleasantries. For example, Russell Brand's Moon is exactly on top of Murdoch's Uranus and squaring his Saturn. So straight away, his Moon in Aries means that Brand isn't going to be able to keep his mouth shut and he'll really lay into Murdoch. Of course, Brand's Moon is also squaring Murdoch's Pluto, so I doubt if Murdoch would let Brand near him. Brand's Sun is generally okay with Murdoch's chart. There is a sort of semi-respect there. But the real crunch comes where there's a 0-degree square between Brand's Mars and Murdoch's Jupiter. The two Saturns are opposite, and Brand's Saturn is on top of Murdoch's Pluto. So they come from diametrically opposite ends when it comes to words like boundaries, mutual respect, and things like this. There is very little complementary here, very little indeed. Most of the angles between these two are squares and oppositions, and they fundamentally represent two extreme opposite ends of the spectrum. I have done the composite chart of putting these two people together just for the fun of it. And in the composite chart, Saturn is in Aries on the IC, Neptune is in Libra on the MC, opposing each other, suggesting again that any relationship between the two of these is going to be based on fundamentally very different structures and ideals. This is not a war that's going to quieten down. They've both got it in for each other now, and I do expect this to continue carrying on. Ultimately, it'll have to come to a peace. If this were 200 years ago, Brand would have been assassinated by now. If it had been Russia 80 years ago, he'd have been gone. But then, Murdoch's not untouchable, as been shown by recent legal cases. Murdoch's future over the coming year is generally stable, but he is going to have to take a step back with his Uranus return and Uranus on top of his node. And this is going to happen over the coming 3 or 4 months. Brand's chart over the coming year is spectacular. If I were advising him, I'd be saying, well, look, for the first 3 or 4 months of next year, right through to June, July, get out there and milk it. But he does have Saturn sitting on his midheaven. And I would also be suggesting to him that by the time you're into July of this coming year, you should then step back, sit back and look at your long-term options, because you can't be that wild forever without burning out. Brand versus Murdoch. Tough one to call. In the short term, you back Brand every time. In the long term, well, Murdoch hasn't got that long left at the head of his corporate empire. But then Brand isn't going to be the wildfire he is in a year from now. So it will probably be a draw, and neither of them will actually influence the other that much. There you go, instant astrology at work. Catch you later. Bye.